There's been a lot of debate on if we're going to get all the weapons returning for Splatoon 3, and a bunch of people think there are some weapons we aren't going to get. Whether it's Chargers being replaced by the bow, Dualies because of the new Squid Roll and Surge, or other weapon controversies. Today, I want to go over all of the controversial weapons people think might not deserve a spot in Splatoon 3, as well as give my own opinion on which ones should and shouldn't make the cut. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to be subscribed for more educational Splatoon content and Splatoon 3 speculations as we slowly get closer to the game's release. Let's get started. First up is the Goo Tuber, and I'm gonna be honest guys, this weapon's not making the cut for Splatoon 3. Goo Tuber was basically designed around a big charge hold gimmick, the idea that it could hold its charge longer than other chargers. And it turns out, having a tiny gimmick and everything else be a downside wasn't good enough for the weapon to see any form of usage. So Nintendo started to enhance it, giving it partial charge kills, longer range tap shots, and of course, the infamous squid bagging in your charge hold. Or rather, going in and out of your charge hold faster. Totally not using it for that. Anyway, these gimmicks at the end of the day didn't end up being enough for the main weapon to be good. But the even sadder part is Goo Tuber's same gimmick of having a charge hold was given to a Splatling, Nautilus, with way better results. Nautilus can actually paint for itself using the charge, something Goo Tuber can't do, and still has a slightly faster coming in and out of the charge, and can hold it for slightly longer than normal chargers at around 2.5 seconds. This weapon has a similar gimmick to Goo Tuber, but is actually good. Even if you insist that the gimmick has to be on a charger, why not just give it to Squiffer? It's already a short-range charger, and having both a better charge hold than longer-range chargers and the full-speed charging in the air that it already has would just serve to set Squiffer apart even more and enhance the playstyle of that weapon. Goo Tuber's design was just way too focused on a gimmick, and not only that, it's a gimmick that fits a lot better on other weapons. So I don't think it has any reason to return in Splatoon 3. Probably the most talked about class to be removed in Splatoon 3 has been the Dualies. A lot of people seem to think that because we've been introduced to the Squid Roll and Squid Surge, two movement techs we know will be on every weapon, that Dualies would be completely invalidated since their dodge rolls are similar, I guess. While this weapon class may be the most popular to remove, I think it has one of the weakest arguments. The Squid Roll and Surge could be used completely differently than the dodge rolls themselves. In particular, the Squid Surge has you going upward where rolls make you descend downward. While the sideways jump is very similar, who's to say this can't be chained alongside dodge rolls or be different in terms of how its ending lag works? On top of the fact that there's only one Squid Roll and multiple dodge rolls. And the dodge rolls themselves having plenty of variants. The Squelchers have slides, the Tetras have 4, and the other 3 Dualies have different duration, end lag, and speed of their rolls. It's also worth noting we know you can shoot during the Squid Roll and the Squid Surge, so who's to say you can't dodge roll out of them, since dodge rolls are just executed with shooting plus the B button. This could be used to quickly descend from a Squid Surge, or to cancel your Squid Roll and mix up your movement options. While some people have looked at the Squid Roll and Squid Surge and saw these options as invalidating Dualies, I personally think they have the opportunity to add on to the weapon class and give it even more movement options, something that really enhances their identity. Thus, I think Dualies should easily return in Splatoon 3 and have a ton of potential with the new movement option. So far we've seen 2 examples of one weapon attribute causing some controversy, but what about one of the most hated weapons in the entire game, the Bloblobber? Bloblobber is a plenty unique weapon, definitely no issues there. The problem is more the way the weapon is designed is absolutely hated by a lot of players. Blob in many instances is sitting on a perch, painting the zone safely, occasionally killing someone behind a corner that you can't even see, and winning games off of special spam. It's something that a lot of people absolutely hate to play against, and it doesn't feel interactive in the slightest. However, rather than being completely removed, Blob falls into a new option, getting a rework. We haven't seen too many of these, with the primary examples being the Octobrush, which we'll talk about later, and the Dual Squelcher being turned into the Dualie Squelchers between Splatoon 1 and 2. Reworks give the option to bring a weapon to the next game while changing specific attributes. In Blob's case, they could add things that would punish more passive play. such as increasing the ink consumption the longer you continuously fire, but reward more aggressive plays, maybe making the blobs travel faster at close range to make it a more reliable kill. For weapons that need some design changes and otherwise are fairly distinct, a rework can offer an opportunity for those weapons to be improved, which enhances the experience for those who play them. Alright, it's time to talk about the Undercover Brella. The Kensa Undercover Brella is one of my most favorite weapons in the game, my favorite armor support weapon. I have a million turf on it, it's in my second favorite class. I've made a whole video guide on the weapon, and another video where I talk about why its shield regen mechanic is one of the best ways to teach people how to play support in any multiplayer shooter. Despite how much I enjoy the Kensa Undercover Brella, the normal Undercover Brella is one of the worst main weapon designs to ever exist in this game. Undercover Brella is one of the worst main weapons in the entire game, and I mean, of course it is. What are they gonna do? Make a weapon that can shoot and shield at the same time really good? Like, that's gonna be enjoyable. For people at a low enough skill bracket to struggle against Undercover Brella, it is one of the most hated weapons in the game. And at a high enough skill bracket, the weapon's an absolute meme except on one kit where it gets hard carried by its sub and special weapon. The problem with Undercover Brella is there is no way of making the main weapon good without making it the most unenjoyable thing to play against in the entire game. The core way the weapon was designed will always be problematic. Shields are something that has to be done incredibly carefully. It has to be dynamic and have counterplay options. Having a weapon that can shield and shoot at the same time just isn't a great idea. While I like the idea of a supportive Brella that has a weaker shield, I think it has to be done in a much better and more dynamic concept than it's done with the Undercover Brella. As for any form of aggressive Undercover Brella, it will just never work for either being too broken or too weak. And if it's broken, it will never be fun to play against. Therefore, I think Undercover Brella is better left in this game. Next up is 3 weapons that all share one common trait. The, oh my god, why is their hitbox so goddamn big? AKA the Clash, Octobrush, and Slosher. While a little bit different, all of these weapons are typically hated for their large hitbox size, which many people may think is unfair. However, it's important to note that all of these bigger hitboxes do come with some pretty bad downsides. Flash Blaster's kill time without any directs is 81 frames, longer than a dynamo vertical flick. It is dependent on getting directs in order to have a faster kill time, and even then, 2 directs kills at 41 frames, which is pretty dang slow still. Octobrush is a similar thing, a slow kill time for its range that gets a little bit faster if you get close to your opponents. Though Octobrush does have less drastic weaknesses since it can actually paint the floor and has some level of mobility. And Slosher is admittedly a little bit different. It's a consistent 2-hit kill time unless if the shots are coming from very high up, but the middle slosh has drastically more range compared to the side sloshes, so having good aim is rewarded. Having weapons with a bigger hitbox that are more dependent on things like positioning and spacing is something we will always see in this game, but there will be a constant debate on if weapons like this are healthy for the game or not. So whether or not you want these weapons in Splatoon 3 is admittedly pretty subjective. In my personal opinion, I'm fine with most of these weapons. I do think there is a bit of a limit on how much the hitboxes should be able to carry a player, and there should be a reward for people mastering aim or positioning. Octobrush in Splatoon 1 had a 2-shot kill time for getting right next to someone that felt like it rewarded you for positioning correctly. I think it's really important that if weapons are going to be really easy to hit people with and be less dependent on aim, then they should be harder to space with and harder to position with than weapons that have an easier time aiming. So for me, I think these weapons, with some slight tweaks, would work fine in Splatoon 3. But again, this is admittedly a lot of personal preference, so let me know if you guys would like to see these weapons return in Splatoon 3 or not. And with all of those being said, there's one class of weapons left on the chopping block. That is Unscoped Chargers. Now, Chargers have always been a controversial weapon class in this game, and I've done a whole video on why they're the most difficult class in the game to balance, so you can check that out in the description if you want to watch it. But what makes this more interesting is now we have a new weapon class, the bows, which seem incredibly similar to Unscoped Chargers. Since the Switch OLED trailer, we know that the bows have a charge hold just like Unscoped Chargers, and the weapon class is already very similar to Chargers. But the bows are a little bit different. Because they have a faster strafing speed, as well as multiple shots, not only do they seem similar to Chargers, but they seem like an easier variant. We've already seen Nintendo try to make some weapons more distinct, like the new Range Blaster N96 look, so why not make Unscoped Chargers more distinct than normal Chargers by turning them into bows? For long-range Unscoped Chargers, it just makes a lot of sense, and gives an opportunity to rework the class slightly, something that's already been discussed quite a lot in the competitive side of things. In my opinion, if the bows are going to feel similar enough to Chargers, then having them replace Unscoped Chargers to be more of an enhancement on that weapon class actually seems like a pretty good idea. And as long as they don't alienate Unscoped Charger players enough, I think it's a fantastic idea. It has a lot of potential to increase the amount of Charger players and breathe new life into the weapon class. I will say though, this is something I really only think we'll see for weapons that have a scope version, so for the shorter range Chargers of Squiffer and Bamboo, I don't think these will be turned into bows, but we could see some more short range bows, so who knows. And that's all the weapons. I've said before that I think Nintendo should port as many of the Splatoon 2 weapons as possible. Since both games are on the same console, you don't want to alienate any of the player base. If weapons are to be replaced or removed, it should be for a really good reason, and any attempt at salvaging the weapon's identity should of course be attempted first, before removal. That being said, I definitely think there is some room to replace or rework weapons in Splatoon 3. But let me know what you guys want to see. Do you agree with the weapons I put on this list? And is there anything that I missed? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and if you want to see more Splatoon 3 content from me, you can be sure to subscribe for more. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a great day.